The Yankees were in the news yesterday for a different reason, obviously. They are optioning Anthony Volpe to the minor leagues. Remember, Volpe had the injury, and then Volpe was in the minor leagues on rehab, and then Volpe got demoted in rehab from AAA to AA. Why was Volpe on the big league roster? Are the Yankees doing that for real? Does Brian Cashman ever think to himself, well, wait a minute, we would like an extra year of Anthony Volpe?
There's a version of this story where Anthony Volpe is already a franchise cornerstone, where Yankee Stadium is chanting his name the way they once chanted Derek Jeter's, where a kid from the Upper East Side of Manhattan fulfilled every single thing this organization said he was going to be. That version of the story does not exist. And as of May 3rd, 2026, the Yankees finally have admitted it. But before we get into this crazy story, shout out to the video sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks application. It's a daily fantasy sports platform, really easy to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats to create a lineup. You pick stats for individual players, points, strikeouts, fantasy score, hits, runs. And they also have a new beta feature called Team Picks where you can pick the winner, spread, or total number of any major game. It's available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida. When you play your first $5 lineup, again, you'll get $50 to use with the code HMA. So shout out PrizePicks again. We appreciate it. Check them out. They definitely make watching games like the A's or the Rockies or something you maybe don't care about or your favorite team a little bit easier. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. Before we get into what just happened though, and it is significant, we need to set the table because if you're going to call someone the biggest bust in Yankees history, you have to actually earn that title, especially for a franchise with the draft record these guys have. The first overall pick in the 1991 draft was Brian Taylor, a left-handed pitcher from North Carolina who Scott Boras called the best high school pitcher he'd ever seen. Taylor struck out 187 men in 161 innings in High A Tampa at just 20 years old. So the Yankees were like, this is our future ace. Then Taylor's brother got into an altercation. Brian went to help him, took a punch the wrong way, and what Dr. Frank Jobe called the worst rotator cuff tear he'd ever seen ended a career that had never even started. Taylor never threw a pitch in the big leagues. He ended up in federal prison a decade later. So that story is a tragedy, right? What happened to Brian Taylor maybe wasn't a bust. It was definitely a nightmare. Then there was Cheeto Culver, drafted in 2010 with the idea that he could marinate in the minors during Jeter's twilight years and ascend to the throne once Jeter retired. But he never got out of the minors. Career slash line of 231, 304, 328, never smelled September call-up coffee, never got his shot. So here's the thing about those guys, right? They never made it to the big leagues. They're busts in the purest, simplest sense, right? They never had the opportunity to fail on the biggest stage. Anthony Volpe got that opportunity for 3 full years, and that is precisely what makes him the biggest bust in Yankees history. There are obvious comparisons between Volpe and Jeter, both Yankee diehards, both with New Jersey ties, both celebrated first-round picks. MLB.com was already writing next Jeter headlines when Volpe was still in the minors in 2022. And honestly, the hype wasn't crazy. In the minors, Volpe became the first player to hit 20 homers and steal 50 bases in a single minor league season since Andrew Jones in 1996. That's not noise. That's a legitimate alarm that a special player is coming. And so the Yankees brought him to spring training in 2023 as a non-roster invitee, competing with Oswald Peraza for the starting shortstop job. On March 26th, they announced Volpe had won the job. And finally, the kid from the Upper East Side who attended the 2009 World Series parade as a fan was now going to be the starting shortstop for the New York Yankees. And the 2023 season wasn't all bad. I mean, that's important to say here. Volpe won the AL Gold Glove at shortstop, the first Yankees rookie to win a Gold Glove since the award was established in 1957, and only the second rookie shortstop to win it, joining Jeremy Pena the year before. So the comparison to Jeter, who won 5 Gold Gloves at short, felt very real at that time. But under the surface, his .283 on-base percentage was the worst among qualified MLB players. His strikeout rate ranked 13th worst in the league. He finished with a .209 average and a .666 OPS. Now, for a kid in his first year, at 22, those numbers carry an asterisk. Everyone extended grace to him. The Yankees extended grace. The front office talked about swing adjustments, maturity, the natural development curve of a young player. Fine, I get that. But the floor was the Gold Glove. The ceiling, they said, was everything else. 2024 was supposed to be that breakthrough year. Volpe cut his strikeout rate, increased his walk rate, and in May, put together a 21-game hitting streak, the longest by a Yankees player in over a decade. The leadoff spot was hid, the conversation had shifted, then July hit. He went ice cold. He was bumped down in the order. The final line at the end of the year, 243 average, 657 OPS, 12 home runs, 60 RBIs, 28 stolen bases. So here's what that actually means. His OPS went down from his rookie year, and in 2023, his rookie OPS was already one of the worst on the team. He was a Gold Glove finalist, so people still gave him a pass. He still had the defense, right? Following the 2024 campaign, the thinking was, okay, you can barely kind of live with the offensive ceiling when the glove is this good on a league minimum deal. That was the logic, and it made sense. Right up until 2025 took that glove away completely. This is where the story turns. Volpe injured his left labrum on May 3rd of the 2025 season. He received cortisone shots, once at the All-Star break, once again in September, and kept playing. Now, he probably should not have kept playing, because his final line was a 212 average, 272 OBP, 391 slugging, 19 home runs, 72 RBIs, and a -6 outs above average on defense. The guy who won a Gold Glove 2 years earlier and was a finalist the year before was now one of the worst defensive shortstops in all of baseball. Among qualified hitters, in 2025, Volpe finished second worst in average, third worst in on-base percentage, fifth worst in WOBA, and seventh worst in WRC+. Even worse, he was placing in the bottom third league-wide against fastballs and pitches over the heart of the plate, which are the pitches that any big leaguer should be able to handle. So that is not a slump. That's more of like a limitation. And through all of it, Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman restated their faith in Volpe as the 2026 starting shortstop when he returned from injury. They pointed to the salary, they pointed to the sample size, they pointed to anything except the actual player standing in the batter's box looking overmatched by league average stuff in his third full season. The uncomfortable reality is that Volpe may have already reached a concerningly low offensive ceiling. He's never had a season with an OBP above 300, never exceeded a 400 slugging percentage, never breached 300 in WOBA, and never posted a double-digit walk rate. That's not bad luck. Excuse my French, that is a pattern of trash, to be honest. Volpe had shoulder surgery on October 14th, 2025, and after the Yankees were eliminated by the Blue Jays, the Yankees, knowing he'd missed the start of 2026, explored the shortstop market that winter, but ultimately kept Jose Caballero, who they'd acquired from Tampa at the deadline, as the interim option. The expectation league-wide was pretty clear. Volpe would rehab, come back, retake his spot. That's how it always worked with the Yankees and their golden boy. Now, Caballero, to his credit, did not read the script. In his past 16 games before the decision, Caballero went 19 for 57 with 3 homers. Manager Aaron Boone said his defense has been arguably as good as anyone in this league. Through 124 plate appearances this season, Caballero is hitting 259, 306, 405 with 13 stolen bases, and even his modest 99 WRC plus is still an improvement over Volpe's career numbers. And then on the other hand, you look at Volpe's rehab assignment numbers, and those yielded an 11 for 44 line, mostly with AA Somerset, which isn't horrible, but it's not really a statement either, and again, at the AA level. And so on May 3rd, the Yankees made the call. They reinstated Volpe from the injured list and optioned him to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. This roster move sends a message the Yankees have not been able to send in a long time. Pedigree and past expectations no longer guaranteed a spot in the Bronx. For a franchise that burned years of Aaron Judge's prime on the Aaron Hicks experiment, on DJ LeMahieu's decline, on Volpe himself, this is a different tone. The urgency is real. And as for Volpe, he's now in a position of seemingly having to win his old job back from AAA, let alone figure out how to break out against Major League pitching. But on top of that, the Yankees already have another top shortstop prospect in George Lombard Jr. waiting in the pipeline. Now, here's what makes the Volpe story uniquely painful in Yankees history. It's not Brian Taylor's shoulder. It's not Cheeto Culver's bat never developing. It's the full story. The hype was real. The tools were real. The opportunity was real. By the time he was optioned, Volpe had nearly 1,900 plate appearances in the major league level and a 222 career average with a strikeout in 1 of every 4 trips to the plate. So that's not a small sample size. That's a verdict of a guy who either just mentally is not that strong and couldn't deal with the big league adversity, or his offensive ceiling just was never that high. The kid grew up a Yankees fan. He went to the 2009 championship parade. He dreamed about wearing this uniform. It just didn't go the way anyone imagined. I hope he figures it out, but right now, Anthony Volpe is exactly what nobody wanted him to be. The biggest what if the Yankees have produced in a very long time. But I'm curious what you guys think. Is there a bigger bust in Yankees history? Do you think you give Volpe another chance if he goes on a hot streak in the minors? Or do we just move on, try to trade him when he shows some new promise, and just shift the attention to the future of George Lombard Jr.? That's all for me, though. I'll see you guys on the next one.